Get ready, stock market enthusiasts, for another quite huge revelation about the Nvidia stock that will blow your stock straight off. What am I talking about here exactly for all you curious people out there with little patience? Well, picture this, the latest buzz about Nvidia's recent quarterly report, with analysts now comparing it a market event on the same pedestal as something like national economic reports. We're talking about Nvidia's earnings announcement and results being a monumental and influential part of the market that you might never take your eyes off of once it comes around again and again. As a leading player in the AI and tech industry, its earnings have captivated investors and analysts alike, with key figures and companies like Deutsche Bank, JP Morgan, and Wedbush constantly on the edge of their seats and affirming how important this company has become. Sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? It is probably not the first time you hear from us about how important Nvidia is to the market. Its influence has been equated to the Federal Reserve as well, and for a damn good reason at that. But how can a company reach these highs? Let us dive in and find out, shall we? Welcome back to Investocracy.
Regardless of what the results are, what's important to note is that if you look at the options, they're pricing a move up of 10% or a move down of 10%. For a stock that's now 6% of the S&P 500. So regardless of what your view is, it matters for macro. And even 2 years ago, it was less than 2% of the S&P 500. So it is the show, especially in August at a time where it's quiet. It could even have a bigger impact than usual.
As Nvidia prepared to unveil its quarterly earnings, the tension in the air was almost tangible. It's as if the financial world collectively held its breath, waiting for a revelation that could shake markets as vigorously as a surprise U.S. jobs report. That is how important and influential Nvidia has become to the market. And even when the results came out, people were excited for the future quarters as Nvidia beat all market expectations and the market was still trying to fight it, but to no avail. What makes Nvidia so magnetic, you may ask? Imagine the stock market as a grand theater and Nvidia as the showstopper. With a whopping $3 trillion market value, that is going to increase with the AI revolution continuing head-on. Nvidia stands as a colossal figure, only behind Apple and Microsoft in size, and accounts for almost 6% of the S&P 500. That's more than a quarter of the benchmark's 18% gain this year alone. Nvidia has reached a stage that we never thought was quite possible just 6 months ago. Nvidia has become too big to fail. But before we go any further and explain how huge Nvidia has gotten and how the market is viewing this, if you want to keep up with Nvidia's latest updates and keep up with the stock market's latest news, you can follow our Twitter account. We post multiple times daily about the biggest changes and catalysts in the market, so click the follow button if you don't want to miss the newest market updates.
What is important to note is that, actually Bank of America did some research on this. Over the last 2 years, Nvidia earnings had a pretty influential effect on the markets, not just that day, but the following 2 weeks. So it's not just like a daily event. It could carry forward for the next couple of weeks as well.
What do we think about whether or not this story around Nvidia is enough to either propel the next leg higher for the market or give you that concern that the AI perceived bubble by some could be due for a kind of correction?
It has a big effect, right? It's the bellwether for a lot of the other chip stocks, but as well for the broader technology sector. But I would caveat that that's looking at the next, call it, couple weeks, months. There is the fact that earnings are doing well for non-tech sector as well, and that's not dependent as much on Nvidia. In fact, some of the other stocks that are not tech-driven have driven the rally in the last couple of weeks.
So if you're looking at the earnings growth picture and the earnings growth story driving the market higher, what parts are your favorites with regard to earnings growth driving upside for the market?
Yeah, no, great question. First, technology needs to hold up, right? It's such a big component of the S&P and of earnings that you can't really say earnings will be double-digit without, Meta and Google and Microsoft continue to perform. But there are sectors like financials, for instance, that have a couple of tailwinds going for them. One is that if rates come down, we were just talking about mortgage rates, you could see financials continue to perform even better than they have recently. You add the fact that their valuation looks attractive versus the tech sector, and momentum's going their way, right? Financials are one of the best performing sectors this year. There are other sectors that could continue to carry the rally.
The scrutiny over Nvidia is dead serious. Deutsche Bank analysts call Nvidia's earnings a macro event that causes market swings akin to those triggered by major economic indicators. It is now rivaling the U.S. jobs report in terms of influence and impact on the wider stock market, according to analysts and experts of all walks of life. Recall February, the S&P 500 jumped 2.1% after Nvidia's earnings, their second-best day of the year. And that's why when Nvidia's earnings are right around the corner, investors are eagerly waiting to see if this performance can be replicated or even surpassed. Analysts and experts like L. Arian have already come to terms with the facts of the matter and put Nvidia on the same pedestal as the Federal Reserve, stating how fighting Nvidia right about now, and quite possibly for the foreseeable future, is akin to shooting yourself in the leg and going against the entire market flow. But before going any further, if you made it this far into the video, thank you. These videos take a lot of effort and time to make, so if you enjoyed them, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. This goes a long way in helping us grow. That said, back to the video.
I think John is totally understandable. I think there is a revolution going on in AI, fed by four things that will only grow in importance, and that is computing power, data, talent, and financing. There's a very long runway, both on the supply side and on the demand side for this sector. On the supply side, we're going to see capabilities improving, expanding. On the demand side, it's not just about AI add-ons that a lot of companies are talking about today and trying to do. It is about developing things that are AI native. So when I look at this, I totally understand the excitement about the sector, and I totally understand how that sector can suck investment into many other things. So it doesn't surprise me. This is a secular story, John. Now, will there be excesses in parts of the market? Of course there will be. But there is something real going on that can enhance productivity and have a huge impact secularly.
One also can't ignore the cascading effect Nvidia has on fellow tech behemoths like Apple and Microsoft. As a bellwether of the AI trend, Nvidia's movements create ripples across markets and mood swings among investors. Michael Field from Morningstar points out we're in a delicate period. A sell-off in August, a partial recovery. But the VIX, Wall Street's fear gauge, remains elevated. Risk and reward have never been so tightly knit. There's a hiccup, though. Nvidia's next-generation Blackwell chips are going to be facing production delays. Initially set for significant revenue in the near future, these chips promise twice the power for training new AI models. Despite the unfortunate delays, demand remains ever so strong for the current Hopper generation. But expectations are climbing. Investors are skeptical yet optimistic, a sentiment echoed by Morgan Stanley, which noted that apprehensions have been largely shrugged off so far.
A secular story. Can we talk about the cyclical impact? Mohammed, we were talking to Jens Nordvik of Exante Data, and he was making the connection between what would happen to growth in America, to productivity in America, and how the Federal Reserve might have to reconsider how high rates might have to be in the years to come. Are you making that connection yet?
In years to come, yes, John, but this is not a Fed that has been basing policy on years to come. This is a Fed that's been basing policies on past data. It's been overly data dependent. But he's right in the sense that when working out productivity and growth potential, you've got to factor that in. It is a transformational, and it's not the only one, John. You know, you've been hearing me say there's three of them. There's what's happening to generative AI, there's what's happening to life sciences, and there's what's happening to green energy. And you've talked to my colleague, Michael Spence, on these issues, and you know how strongly he feels as well.
As we draw our analysis to a close, Nvidia's current position leaves a clear message. There's no stopping this AI titan. The company is not merely riding the AI wave, it's driving it. And now everyone and their mama recognizes that it is driving the market as well. Despite minor hiccups, Nvidia's overall trajectory points north. Analysts forecast continuous growth powered by unwavering demand for AI technology. The upcoming fourth quarter, when Blackwell chips are expected to ramp up mass production, promises yet another leap in innovation and market value. In today's volatile financial climate, investing in Nvidia seems not just wise but almost imperative. Its current market activities and future projections embody the epitome of growth and stability. But what do you think? Is Nvidia the safe bet in your portfolio? Or do you foresee uncharted risks ahead? Let's continue the conversation. Your insights could be the missing piece of this financial puzzle. Let's see where this exciting saga takes us next. And finally, if you would like to know what companies like Nvidia have been up to these past few days, go ahead and click on the next video on your screen.